All right. So thus concludes the December 5th, 2023 OPI Lifecycle meeting. The only update I had, and I will try and create minutes and put it in the minutes, is talk to Yuval last week. He did go ahead, I believe, create a defect in the PMCI work group for DPU boot status, right? And I'll post a defect number, and then for all the companies that have access to DMTF, you can get your respective member to go look at it and post comments there. Were there any other topics for today?
There is one request from Joe White in the Slack to present some readout and status and the plan from this group in December 7th TSC call.
Is someone presenting on the 7th?
Sorry, can you repeat your comment? The voice was breaking on my end.
I'm sorry. Is someone signed up to present on the 7th?
I don't know. I just saw the request from him in our Slack channel.
Yeah, the request says we need a readout, status, and plans from the Lifecycle Working Group at the 7th December, this Thursday TSC meeting. I don't know what TSC is. And the author of that message is Joe White.
It's the steering committee, right? The technical steering committee. Yeah. I think generally, or in the past, it was the chairs, right, who had presented or shared the statuses, readouts, and the plans around individual sub-team.
Okay, so he sent that yesterday. Yeah, that's the technical steering committee. So I had to, it's kind of short notice. I have not, has anyone else gone to that besides Boris and maybe Julia?
I mean, speaking about myself, I just attended once. I'm not so frequent attendee.
Yeah, unfortunately, it has this for me as well. It has a standing conflict with another meeting that I can't really skip. So that's why I almost never go to it.
I've never been there, and I have no idea when it takes place.
It's on, well, it says Thursday mornings, right? I think it's like 9 or 10 Central Time. Okay, so I will take a note and I'll put in the minutes that Joe White's requesting a meeting or a readout. And then I will try and coordinate with Boris and see if he already has like any collateral from the last time he did it. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's like regular program status kind of thing, you know, like you usually have a template and stuff like that, and do an update based on last time status, right? Okay. And we might have to just kind of request a pass because of, a little bit of change in leadership and some other things that have been going on. Okay. Sorry, making some notes to myself. Okay, what else is there? So we were wanting a discussion on redfish. Are we looking for a proposal? Redfish proposal?
Yeah, I think the outcome of our last meeting was to continue on the definition of what we chose as the mandatory commands among vendors. So on my side, I'm working on that, but have no update for this week on that. And I have just a question, maybe a technical one, related to how to contribute to those OPI provisioning lifecycle pages. Is that, can I edit them in place, or should I create a pull request? I do not want to break the content that was already there.
Okay. Yeah.
So if there are any housekeeping rules, that would be great to know.
If you, so I've done it a couple times. If you try to edit in place, it won't let you.
Okay.
I
created my own fork.
When you hit save, it'll automatically say you have to create a pull request. So, it makes sense to go ahead and clone the repository ahead of time. And you can edit it in place, and for the most part, the tool does kind of okay, right? Generally what happens though is there's that, make sure you do a sign off, and then sometimes it'll fail from markup lint or something like that. And then you have to kind of pull it back to your well, what I find is I have to pull it back to my laptop, and then I do, I fix it up and then do a
okay, so there are some checkers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, that's
there's
great.
Lots of
that's
checkers.
Great.
Yeah, there's a checker to make sure that you sign off any commits, right? So you have to and then there's markdown checkers, and I think there's some like white space cleanup things there. Oh, the one that's most annoying to me is the commit message has to follow a certain format. You have to put like doc : and then your commit, your comment, and it has to be shorter than so many characters long. And there's some restrictions around the commit message as well.
Is it described somewhere? What are the rules? So that I upfront know what not to do.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's almost so. I think the checkers in GitHub are listed as like jobs or something like that, and they're not really customized for this project. They're standard ones. That's like a commit lint and a markdown lint kind of thing. And then those tools have web pages that kind of describe what you do. But yeah, you just have to prefix every commit message, like the beginning of the subject line in line 1 has to have a keyword that describes what kind of commit message it is.
Okay, that sounds like a joy. Okay.
Well, it is. And then what happens is one of the things fails, right? Then what you should do is you go, or what I end up doing is I just pull the branch down to my laptop, clone it, pull it, right? I amend the commit, because you can rebase your commits, right? Or you can amend them on your branch as many times as you want. When you push them, you can't rewrite history, right? You can't do any amends, but up until the point you do, you can.
Okay, thanks.
I'll see if I can put together kind of just a brief list of what the restrictions are. There may be a there may be a contributor page. And then I could also send out a link to the Dell Redfish stuff that we use for servers, you know, kind of the standard commands. We have some scripts that just kind of like Python scripts that say, okay, this is how you reboot a server. This is how you do a firmware update.
Yeah, so there is one markdown page for contributing in the OPI main project repo. So I just posted the link, and it has mentioned some references about steps to contribute. And I think it's mainly using the general GitHub basic process for contributing and for signing off, as you were mentioning, Lee.
Okay. We haven't already started a page for this Redfish then. I know Boris did several contributions. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see a Redfish page. Okay, so that's still an AI. Aga, do you know? Do you have something you're just trying to commit it? You think you'd have it for next week or no?
Yeah, I want to add to, I was planning to add two things. Basically, we chose only the commands that are actually setting something. But I want to add the commands, for example, that would make the flow complete and draw such a flow on, for example, if you want to do an update of the firmware, let's say of the TPU or XPU, you should first try and check the version that exists, then do the update, then do that again, or something like that. So for example, that mandatory thing or mandatory schema part for checking the current inventory is missing right now from that page. So that's what I'm planning to add. And I want to go over each of the commands that Boris has documented already to see if to put each flow in such a context, right? And I think that that's when we will really have the mandatory elements of the schemas in place, and then it will be complete, and I will feel like we did our job.
Yeah, and then I think firmware updates generally modeled like as a Redfish. I think it's task, right? Where you do a firmware update, you get back a task handle, and then you go monitor the task handle for completion.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
You keep on monitoring whether this is still in progress, and that that you have the device still alive, basically, right?
Yeah.
When you're sending the chunks of the image. And then I think you're doing at the end some check of the image
Mhm.
integrity, and then you do the actual reboot or programming of that image, and then all sorts of steps that should be there. And
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
you can
yeah.
decide whether, well, you can generally decide when the task starts on next reboot or something
Correct.
like that.
Or in place or immediately or in the next reboot or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
And then I think you can query ahead of time what's possible, right? Whether or not,
Correct.
yeah.
So I think all these small pieces are missing from the overall picture. And if we don't put it in place, the situation will be that if we have only those core set elements defined, then, for example, you will not be able to do the complete operation from start to end because some pieces will be missing. So I want to make sure that we all align to how we want to expose the information about the current state, how to go with the update process, and then how we finish that. Maybe that's too much for that profile, or maybe
Yeah.
that's not, but the more we can define in there or put in there that we agree to, the better. I think the more complete are, because the verifiers that Boris talked about are supposed to like check whether all the pieces are there in place. So the more of them will be checked or verified, the better. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I think um I think the general firmware update flow is pretty standard. I think it's going to be difficult to get everybody to agree would be if we tried to standardize like what the device tree would look like, right? Like where does this firmware reside and how many firmwares are there?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. That's for sure, because the architecture of those XPUs may be different.
Right.
But I think we can at least, I don't know, maybe we can define it as optional elements. I don't know if that profile needs to have everything that is mandatory, or we can go with like optional tags for that.
Yeah, I mean, in general, Redfish is supposed to be discoverable. So I should be able to walk the tree, kind of figure out what the
Yeah.
device is and where things go. And then, so, yeah, I think we should try and take a first pass at it and see if there's a part where it's like, well, there's not a really good way to say this. And then we probably need to dig in and do some work. But
And actually the image update, firmware update, or whatever you call it, is just an example. We've got the situation, similar situation with every single item on that list, that it needs to go into some context, right?
okay. Which list are you specifically referring to?
Let me see. Boris prepared kind of a very comprehensive list of the items that should be there, we should touch. Let me see where that is.
You mean the list of commands? Or
Yeah.
Yes.
I can post the link. I think this one. And then in the last week's call, we discussed about the PyDPU, right? And that has certain APIs and libraries specific to individual schemas, right? Like the account, and that's the follow-up, right? Like once we have agreed about the mandatory schemas and the list of commands that should be supported by all individual vendors, then I think we should have some sort of a the APIs and the libraries to support all those schemas in the commands in a single profile.
Yes, I think in the next meeting, we should simply focus one by one on having the flow of the commands in a given area working. Like, for example, here we have updating the device, but also rebooting the device or setting the boot options and so on. And we should go then somehow align it with the DPU or whatever the name will be for that tool or for that library. And then I think we will be able to somehow progress.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the interesting things is even like reboot device, right? Is that something?
Oh, it is.
Well, I know, but okay. So one way you can reboot the device is within the context of the entire server rebooting, right? You up-level it. Because you may have issues with rebooting, like let's say a DP, like if a DP is not in a state where it can be rebooted cleanly, there's no graceful shutdown. What you're missing here from a reboot device is some kind of graceful shutdown operation.
Yes, and I wonder whether we did not put it on this list consciously, or we just missed that. To be honest, I don't remember, because I think in the family of managing the device or rebooting the device, we should have that graceful shutdown as well, or going to some maintenance mode or something like this. So you can go to the state of the device where you can provide a new image or do the servicing or something like that. I think that's also missing here.
Yeah. Because if you don't, I'll go ahead and share this so we're all looking at the same thing.
But I think I'll start with something that is pretty straightforward. So like controlling the device boot source and order, and then updating the device. I think that's going to be my my order of contribution to that page. If I succeed to create a pull request.
All right. Sorry, hold on a second.
Because I think the basic thing that you need to do with your XPU is basically provide it with an image of the OS to be able to update it and to manage its life cycle in a sense that being able to reboot it once you provide, for example, something new, some new image to it or some new OS. And if we manage to at least agree on that, that will be a really good work.
I don't have anything else for today. Was there anything else anybody needed to raise before we kind of adjourn maybe early?
Maybe just a clarification comment. You, in the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned about the PLEM status update, and I don't know if was it like some sort of a PLEM status
Yeah, you've always opening up
update.
checked against the PLDM set state document spec, right? And then just what we had agreed on with it makes most sense to just go ahead and create a new state set, right? That has the existing states in it, because it didn't map real well into anything else that was existing, and it's just
Mhm.
probably the quickest and fastest way forward. So yeah, I'll get that defect number that he opened up, and then maybe even look at what the current status is of it and see if there's anybody who's even looking at it yet. And then for all the companies here that are already members of the DMTF, you can track it directly, but I'll try and periodically update status here as well. Makes sense?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, if that's it, thanks everyone, and appreciate all the work we've been doing so far. And I'll try and figure out if there's going to be anybody to give an update to the TSC and figure that out too. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.